find me sitting quietly with my pipe and smoking again. End of a long day, but always a pleasure. I like that phrase in, I think it's Theoden talking to Merry in The Lord of the Rings when he says, when you sit at peace with your pipe. And actually this, as you can probably see, is my Tolkien pipe. I associate pipes with writers or books or occasions, and it's still a Peterson though. It's a lovely churchwarden, as they're called, these long-stemmed pipes. It's got a green stain on the lovely briar bowl, but I suppose it's the kind of pipe that one associates with that whole Lord of the Rings world. And I have to confess that I read that book first as a teenager and was completely entranced by it. I've read it many, many times since, and actually my first foray or venture into pipe smoking was very much inspired by that, so it's been a lifelong pleasure. And I think I used to have it on a talking calendar on the wall, but this is a nice edition of the Lord of the Rings as a fellowship, illustrated by Alan Lee, and that picture is really formative for me, an absolute favourite. I used to have it up on the wall just there from a calendar. It's just beautiful, the kind of glow of light around Gandalf's face. I also like the learned little note about pipeweed which he inserted, concerning pipeweed. I've got my glasses on. There's another astonishing thing about hobbits of old that must be mentioned, an astonishing habit. They imbibed or inhaled through pipes of clay or wood the smoke of the burning leaves of a herb which they called pipeweed or leaf, a variety probably of Nicotiana. A great deal of mystery surrounds the origin of this peculiar custom. I love that. But it's certainly reflective, meditative, peaceful habit for me, but it's also associated with inspiration and writing, and I love the way all those photographs of the Inklings at their best and at the peak of their powers, that you often see them, as it were, lit from the flame of a match by the bowl of a briar pipe. And there's a photo, well, there's an interesting thing, I'll just get it from the shelf here. I absorbed, of course, look, even on the cover of this, it's wonderful. I absorbed Humphrey Carpenter's biography of Tolkien. And I remember when I wanted to write a poem about Tolkien and about his ideas about how stories work and language itself and the Tree of Tales, a kind of poetic response to his great essay on fairy stories in the collection Tree and Leaf, I somehow remembered, and I thought it was from this book, a photograph of Tolkien leaning back into a tree with his pipe in his hand. And I wrote a poem which was about the combination of the pipe and the tree and Tolkien. And then I wrote the poem sitting on the top of a double-decker bus, wrote it on the back of a scrap of paper. And when I came back to look for the photo, just to get my thing right, I discovered that, sure enough, the photo of the tree was there. This is the very last photo of Tolkien ever taken with his favourite tree in the Oxford Botanical Gardens, but no pipe. And then I realised that on the opposite page were no less than 3 photos of Tolkien with his pipes. Somehow they got fused in my mind. But anyway, by that time the poem was written, so I wasn't minded to change it. I thought a photograph must exist of Tolkien with his pipe and a tree. Anyway, just if you've got a moment, I'll read you the poem. It's one other of the poems where I happen to celebrate pipes as well as other things. And the poem, which is from my singing bowl book, is called Patterns, brackets, Tree and Leaf. Tolkien is leaning back into an oak old, gnarled, distinct in bole and burr, as from the burr and bole of his old pipe, packed with tightly patterned shreds of leaf. The smoke ascends in rings and wreaths of air to catch the autumn light and meet such leaves as circle through its wreaths and patter down in patterns of their own to the rich ground. Again, he contemplates the tree of tales, the roots of language in its rings of growth, the tongue and tail and teller all coeval, and he becomes a pattern, making patterns, a tale telling tales and turning leaves, from the print of thumb and finger on his pipe, to the print and press and pattern of his books, and all their prints and imprints in our minds, out to this grainy, patterned photograph of Tolkien leaning back into an oak. Well, these are the kind of things that go through one's mind, but yes, I think part of the sheer pleasure of the pipe for me comes out of the rich associations of the stories and storytelling of J.R.R. Tolkien. Anyway, it's Lance Sharon. Thanks for dropping round.